Welcome to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I have such a wonderful, exciting guest with me today. This is Dianna Kokoszka, and Dianna is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, best-selling author, investor, and mentor who has transformed countless lives and businesses. She is one of the top 25 business coaches in the United States, Entrepreneur of the Year 4 times, and Businesswoman of the Year 3 times. And Dianna, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to get into some of the questions that I have for you today. Why don't you just kind of introduce yourself to everybody if you want to add anything to what I just said?
Well, first of all, it really doesn't matter because today's a new day, right? Yet I do want to say wherever you're at, it really does not matter because you can go up in the world wherever you desire. Just set your goal and go after it. You've got to become that person. And the reason I say that is I started out selling real estate, putting my kids in a little red wagon, going door to door. I couldn't afford a babysitter. So to go from that state to where I am today, not marrying into it, because a lot of people go, oh, yeah. A lot of times they think women marry into wealth, right?
Yep.
And it's no, it was hard work. It was pure grit and determination, bullheaded determination, if you want to say it the right way. And it was sometimes not taking no for an answer and just keep going no matter how many no's I heard. So I wanted to say that, not to say, woohoo, look at me, to say, I don't care where you're at in life. If I can do it, you can do it, because nothing special here. We just have to get going, right?
You know what? You're absolutely right. And my history with you actually goes back to 2015 when I took Bold for the very first time.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny that you mentioned the red wagon. I think I've actually said this on my podcast in the past. When I was pretty new in real estate, I had a 9 and 7-year-old boys, and then I had a pretty new baby. And I actually took straight from your playbook and used to go door knock with my baby in a stroller and go around my neighborhood and go around a couple of the neighborhoods that I had sold houses in to kind of try and drum up business. So before you and I even interacted, you have been a part of my real estate journey almost from day one. So
I appreciate that, and I'm glad I could help. Bold was written in a time, 2008, when the real estate industry was going down and hundreds of thousands of agents were getting out of the business. About 90% of the market centers were not making money, according to Mary Tennant, the president of the company. And when she came to me, she said, I want you to write this course. Don't tell anybody you're even writing it. Just go write it, anything. And when I came up with the name, she goes, I love the name. We brought 17 agents in that I started teaching right away, and they literally doubled what they said they would do. One lady said during the 8 weeks, because it was 8 weeks when it started, it went to 7, yet she wanted to do 11 listings, and she did 23. So, Gina Ront doubled his listing goal that he put down, and those were the listings they were normally taking in good times. When I said cross it through and double it, they about went, what? In fact, they did. They were all concerned. Yet Gary Keller, Mary Tennant, all of them said the Bold saved the company. I know what it did, and I was just so blessed to be able to do that with God's help, because I don't think we do anything alone. So And I know they've changed Bold, and that's okay because that's the company gets to do that kind of thing. Yet that first Bold, I know it went for 14 years, and people are still talking about it today because I got over 90,000 thank you cards and letters from people that it changed their life. Now, I know I didn't change their life, they did, Mackenzie, because they're the ones that did the work. Yet, I helped create the words, the environment, and that was 80% of their success. And then they had to fill in the other 20. So I was just been really, really blessed to be able to do that. And I just love real estate and agents. I love sales. It doesn't matter what you're selling. I love it.
It's always a challenge, right?
Yes, yes. That's the part I love the most. I mean, people don't like objections, and yet I go, that's the sport of it. Are you kidding? Bring them on. And I used to laugh when I'd go places and I didn't have any objections. I'd go, oh, I didn't even get to play today. Right? To me, I heard Jack Nicklaus say, pressure is pleasure. And most people, they don't want pressure. And I agree with Jack. The pressure is when you really get to play. So let's stop worrying about the pressure and say, bring it on. We'll do so much more, right?
Wow, I love that quote. You know what? That actually leads me to one of my questions that I have here. So, you've led at the highest levels of real estate and business. What's
Yeah.
one belief that you had to unlearn in order to grow into the
Oh,
leader that
wow.
you are today?
I love that question. In fact, I had different beliefs I had to get over during my lifetime, right? Like when I was 20, I thought, oh, as a leader, I got to know all the answers. And so when I didn't have an answer, I'd be like, I don't know. Um, I also thought that you had to carry all the weight. Now, I've always believed that no one was going to outwork me. I would never ask somebody to do something I would not ask myself. I don't think a leader says I get to sit back and just play and be charismatic and go out there and, get the sweets or whatever. The the first class tickets, I never got those as a CEO yet. I mean, that isn't what a leader is. And yet I thought that I had to carry all the weight and not shrinking from my duties in any way. In my 30s, I started shifting. I started learning more and more about leadership, and I learned that it's not about being the hero, it's about making heroes and helping to develop other people. By the time I was 40, oh my goodness, I realized that I couldn't do it alone. And I heard John Maxwell say that if you're a leader and you're all alone, you're just taking a walk, right? You got to have people that desire to follow you. And I went through this change. I thought I was so good I could change people. I mean, have you ever thought for 1 minute that you could help change people? And do you know, every time I have worked to change somebody, I'm the one that gets hurt, not them. I'm the one. So I learned a long time ago, you can't change people. So those are probably the biggest things that I learned. And of course, John Maxwell being my mentor now for over 29 years. Think about that. The very first event I went to, we had dinner at his house. I mean, the very first inner circle I joined with him, there were only 13 other people. I mean,
Wow.
that he was just starting out in that arena. And so to
Yeah.
be able to be there, and of course, I've gone to everything. I've spent millions on personal growth. And I have found as a leader, you better personally be growing and helping your other people personally grow as well. Otherwise, you're not really a leader. I think people believe leaders should be charismatic. They should be able to stand up there and, shout from the podiums and get a movement going. And yes, that's very good. Yet I've seen some leaders that you wouldn't even know they were a leader. They come in very quiet, sit in the back of the room, yet they're leading one of the biggest organizations ever. So the other part I would say is I learned, don't judge people by what they look. Judge them by their actions, not what they say, because actions never lie. Words do. actions don't.
That is so true. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I joined the inner circle with you is because I am leading a real estate team and want to be able to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with other people that I can learn from on how to be a leader and how to be a better leader and also lead my people, right? To your point, we can create heroes in their own story. And I think that I'm hopefully creating that culture within my team where they all kind of get to be the hero of their own story. So, yeah, I
Well,
love
you
that.
are. You are. And the inner circle's been so much fun. I
Yes.
mean, my word, we are learning so much together. And I just love, I'm just preparing our next lesson that I get to give. And I'm very excited about what I see and hearing all of the advancements people have made. I mean, some of them have bought other businesses, like one bought two additional businesses, and another one has 10x'd their business over last year. I mean, I just love, and you look at how much you're doing. You're even writing a book and you're speaking and all these extra things. And I just love seeing people grow because I believe that as a leader, we stand for people's greatness more than they stand for their limitations.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, that does actually lead me to one of my next questions that I have here. So, you have coached and mentored so many leaders. What patterns do you see that consistently hold talented women, very specifically women, back from their next level?
It's a loaded question because I got to tell you, I think a lot of women, first of all, we talk more than men. So I would say it holds us back. We've got to learn how to say what we want to say succinctly, clearly, and no explanation. I see a lot of women go on the defense when someone desires to give them feedback. To me, feedback is free coaching, for heaven's sakes. I just spoke at an event, and a guy that was there, and he helps speaking coaches, and he goes, "Oh my goodness," and of course he praised me and all the things I did right. And he said, I said, "You're a speaking coach. I would love to get feedback from you." And he said, "Oh, one of the people I gave feedback to wrote me a one-page email about how I shouldn't do that because that is, you should just tell people what they did well because you've got to upgrade their strengths, not help their weaknesses." And I said, "Well, that's not me. You won't have to worry about that." And so we got on the phone and he was telling me the things I did right. And I was going, "Okay, right there in that film, my hand should not have been turned that way, should it?" And he goes, "No. Do you want to get that detailed?" I said, "Heck yes. How can I improve if you don't do?" And when we were over, he goes, "You are one of the most coachable people I've seen." And I think that that helps us. But yet I have seen many women specifically that they can't do the coaching part. I think that they confuse humility with hiding, right? If
Mm,
if I don't show what I do, hey, I never talked about what I did. I was just happy that I did it and that we were moving forward. And it really came back to haunt me because a lot of people took credit for all the things that I did, which
yeah.
means you're no longer needed, right? It's we downplay our results is how I would say that. We soften our language and we let other people take credit for what we do. And that's good to a point. You don't want to say, "Hey, I did that." You don't answer that way. Yet, are we telling people the things that we're working on? Are we telling people what we're doing? Because when we need buy-in, I've done this a lot. When I needed buy-in from somebody, I would act like they already told me about the idea that I had. And it was funny because a lot of them took credit. "Oh, yeah, I remember telling you that." And I would just kind of smile inside. Hey, as long as it got done, I didn't care. Yet I see a lot of women doing that. They also say yes to too many things because we tend to be more people pleasers because we are the person that has, helped. This is not about men not helping to raise kids. They do, yet we get the majority of it. And we're the nurturers. That's kind of how we're made up. At high capacities, women tend to say yes to too many things. And a lot of times women say yes for the praise instead of what it will do to add value to other people. So I think we have to have our motive correct on that. I think the biggest one I've seen, I'm really on a roll here, I'm sorry. The biggest one I've seen is they avoid tough conversations. They
Mm.
don't they don't interrogate reality. And I learned from Susan Scott when she was my coach that you interrogate reality. I also learned from Kevin Turner, who's the only man that ever worked with Sam Walton and Bill Gates. I'm going, wow, think about that. Sam Walton and Bill Gates.
Ooh, man.
And he said that he went in to Mr. Glass, and Mr. Glass said, "Okay, Kevin, I have three things for you." And of course, they carried their legal pads, and he had his yellow legal pad out, and he says, "Okay, give it to me." And the guy, Mr. Glass, tells him, and he goes, "Oh, Mr. Glass, you don't understand." And he said, for 5 minutes, maybe it was three or maybe it was two, I don't know, yet I told him why that was happening. And I went on the defense. And he
Mm.
said, he listened, and he said, "Well, thank you, Kevin, for telling me that." And so our conversation's over. And he got up and he escorted Kevin to the door. And Kevin left. Well, Kevin now goes home to his wife, and his wife says, "Why did you do that? Oh my gosh, he's your boss. Will you even have a job tomorrow?" And so he goes back and he starts calling Barbara, who was the EA for Mr. Glass. And he called Barbara, and Barbara would say, "No, Mr. Glass doesn't have time for you today, Kevin." And then he called the next day, and Barbara laughed and said, "No, he doesn't have time for you today, Kevin." And he said for 2 weeks, he called every day. And then he called in on that one day, and Barbara said, "Well, we kind of figured you'd be calling today. Yes, Mr. Glass will see you." So he went in with his yellow pad and he said, "Okay, I'm ready." And Mr. Glass told him something, and he said, "Okay, give me another one that I can improve on." And he gave him another one. And he said, "Is there anything else, Mr. Glass?" And Mr. Glass said, "Yes. The minute that you're not coachable, I don't need you in my world." Because somebody that's not coachable will not move forward. They won't be able to. That they will find and they'll carry that weight. And he said, you've got to understand. You got to take the hard conversations, and you've got to help people. Well, if women aren't willing to give the tough conversations, how do you help somebody? You just let
That
them
is
keep
so
limping
true.
along. And
Yeah.
then I think that a lot of women carry people. They cover up the problems. I know I've done work for somebody before and not brought it up to them. I think that we delay accountability because we care so deeply. Caring's a strength, yet leadership requires truth. Leadership requires delivery. And I think women, when we go in, sometimes we work to earn the room instead of just owning the room. And Bill Gates taught me this. You claim victory before you step on the battlefield. You don't step on the battlefield and help to earn the right to be on the battlefield. Either you're there or you're not there. So
Hmm.
claim
Absolutely.
victory and own it. And when you walk into a room, don't think about, do I belong? I had a lady come up to me once in an event, and she goes, "Ooh, I don't feel like I belong here. Everybody else is so much further advanced than me." I looked at her and I said, "Wait, just a minute. I can actually tell that because of your posture, because of your voice, because of the way that you're acting. Let me just tell you something. Whose child are you?" And she gave me her mom and dad's name. And I said, "No, really, whose child are you? Did God not make you?" Because I knew her faith. I wouldn't say that to somebody I didn't know. Yet
Sure.
she said, "Well, yes, God made me." And I said, "Well, then why would you say God's child does not belong here? Why don't you say, what can I learn from these people, and start writing down questions so you can learn from them?" Yet I believe a lot of women go through that. Do I belong? I, the biggest one I keep saying that over and over, the tough conversations, yet right up there with it is a lot of women are just so loyal to people and loyal to companies that no longer fit. They outgrow a position or a team or a business model, and they just keep doing it to feel safe, to keep their job. And at that point, they end up going it alone. Okay, I'll just do it. I'll just do it myself. I'm not going to complain because I know that women complain a lot. I won't complain. Yet we tend to we mentor everyone else. Yet a lot of times we won't spend money on ourselves to be mentored. Getting honest feedback. A mentor can do that. A coach can do that. The right one. A lot
Yeah.
of people, because of their loyalty, keep people. If you're not moving forward, if you have a coach and you're not moving forward, change coaches and be willing to pay for great coaches. I mean, like Susan Scott. I mean, think about Susan Scott, Don Yeager, John Maxwell, John Addison, who was over Primerica. Gosh, I just Simon Sinek. People that I've paid to coach me, they don't come cheap.
Oh,
Yet,
no.
what are you worth? That's why I
Absolutely.
started the inner circle. And believe me, with $1,500 a month, that is dirt cheap for everything everybody gets. In fact, people, I was asked to join one that's very similar, not with John Maxwell as the partner, but as someone else who's very prominent. And they wanted 30,000 right up front. And they don't do any events. You just get Zooms. And I went, wow. I'm
You
really
know,
charging a little bit. Anyway, that's women. And I would just say, women, you are enough. Women, go out there and lead and be willing to do what needs to be done. Because I love the part that there's a book by Jock and Leaf. They were Navy SEALs. Oh my goodness, here, I've got to do this. I know I generally, but I was hoping I would see it. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Uh,
are you talking about Jocko Willick's book?
no. Okay, you've got to take this out of your podcast because it's
No,
on my
that's fine.
house.
Yep.
I
I
know
have a
it's on
really great
my
editor.
house. It's oh, I know what it is. Here we go back. I'll come back.
Yep.
Okay. You know, there's a great book out there, and it is called Extreme Ownership. And there is a part of it that I literally took a copy of and put up on my wall. It says, if you are the leader and someone is not doing their job at the highest standard, that it is up to you as a leader to fix that. Nobody else. One of my great friends, Christine Comerford, she wrote the Renegade Leader. She says that, an organization, it's all about leadership because the fish rots from the head down. So if things aren't working out in your organization, take a look in the mirror. And I'm always looking in the mirror. And where am I going wrong? Between extreme ownership, you owe it to the team. And if you can't fix it, you owe it to the team to find somebody that that you can bring in to fix it, because the team has to move forward at the highest level. The Navy SEALs could not afford to have, as John Maxwell says, hit the ball and drag Charlie. Everybody has to come prepared to go a million miles an hour when they're ready to go, right? And so, yeah, I love those books, and I love John for all that he's taught me in leadership as well.
Extreme Ownership is actually the first book that my husband read kind of on his, self-help growth journey. And
Yes.
that was such a good book to start with, especially for a man, right? And then also on top of that, like, what a great way to just kind of snowball. Like, that was kind of when he and I came together as far as like our path to growth together, and I just love that book too. It is so good. Going
You
back
know,
to what you
oh, go ahead.
said about, yeah, kind of going back to what you said about feeling like you don't fit into a room, right?
Mhm.
When you and I originally sat down and you presented the inner circle to me, that was actually my initial thought, right? I was like, who am I to be in this room with some of these, you were talking about some of the people that had joined, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm nowhere on the level of these people. But when I actually sat down and thought about it and talked with my husband about it and a couple other people, I was like, actually, that's the best room for me to be in, to your point, that I'm going to be able to learn so much from these people. And if I go in and make sure that I'm asking the right questions and listening and taking notes and things like that, I'm going to be light years ahead of where, I want to be in a year. And that actually ended up being totally true because in 2025, my team had our best year ever. We ended up adding agents who have absolutely brought, growth and opportunity and a good, culture environment to our team. And we're just going to continue growing in 2026. And I have a big piece of that to attribute to being a part of the inner circle. So thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Susie Kopp doubled her business as well, and she says it's all because of that inner circle. It does such a great job. And one thing you just reminded me of most women again. Most talented women are not held back by their ability. They're held back because they're waiting to get permission to do
Oh,
it. And I think sometimes whether we get permission from our husbands, permission from our friends, permission from people to invite us into the room instead of, hey, I heard you were having this inner circle. I belong in there, right? Most women won't do that. I had
no.
men do it, but I never had a woman say that.
Mm.
They have to be invited in. So, women, you are talented. Ask for what you desire. We are taught we have not because we ask not. Well, start asking, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but I did want to make sure to ask you one more question here, mostly just because I would love to kind of know what your thoughts are on this. Can
Okay.
you share a moment when you felt stretched beyond your capacity and how that
Mm.
season reshaped the way you define success today? Because I think a lot of the people that I have listening to my podcast are kind of in that in between stage where things are really, really, really hard and they haven't kind of gotten to the other side of success yet.
There is that little push that you have to give. You're almost there, right? Even our thoughts in our head, when we think about it, going from one neuron to another, has to make a jump over a synapses to get the thought completed. And yet we're not willing to take that extra jump sometimes. Every goal has a toll booth that we have to pay to go through. Are we willing to pay the price to go through it? So, where I was is, first of all, I want everyone to hear this was my responsibility. I'm the one that messed up, okay? So I'm doing very, very well. I have 4 offices. I opened up my own real estate firm, and the offices were number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the Denver area with ERA. It was a franchise, and we were doing so well. And I started a property management division. And I had a friend that needed a job. And so she knew how to do books and that. And so I hired her as the bookkeeper to take over everything, right? And I didn't watch the money. I was out growing the business while she was siphoning rent checks. I was out working on the business while she was not sending in mortgage payments. Oh, I signed them all. The checks just went in the trash, right? And
Mm.
so I woke up one morning responsible for 216 mortgage payments and people that were ready to go into foreclosure because of me not watching the money. So I had the stress of caring about people and knowing I'd let them down. And I had the stress of the money being a single parent. And I had 2 children. And my sister's kids had come to live with me because she was in the hospital very ill.
Mm.
I got to tell you, Mackenzie, those were dark times for me. We didn't have cell phones that told us who was calling, so I could avoid some calls. I sold everything, and everybody knew I was in a hardship because, they say telephone, telegraph, tell a realtor, right? And I know it's a funny part. Uh, did spread board meeting because I sat on the board of directors for the realtors for our county. And when I came out, my car wasn't there. And of course, the police officer announced in front of everybody that your car wasn't stolen, ma'am, it was repossessed. And so the big joke was, hey, don't ride anywhere with Dianna unless you like to hitchhike. It was hard. It was hard for my kids too, because people sometimes they mean well, but they would say things to the kids. Kids didn't know what was going on. They were too young. I didn't talk to them about it. Yet for the first while, for probably a good week, maybe a couple of weeks, I was a victim. I was crying. I was, how could this happen to me? Why me? Blah, blah, whatever. And then I woke up. I realized, hey, you're never going to be the hero of your own life if you don't get out of this victim mode, take responsibility. So I picked up the phone and I started calling everybody. I promised to pay everybody back. Of course, all my friends were saying, take out bankruptcy, get rid of it. I couldn't. I'm not against anybody that does that. I have no judgment. For me, that wasn't the thing I could do. I couldn't live with it myself. So I sold things pennies on the dollar because everybody knew. And then I went back to selling real estate. Now, the interesting part, I set out a plan. I knew how much money I owed. And I called everyone and said what I was going to do. I called every mortgage company, became a fierce negotiator. It helped me in negotiations and moved forward. And eventually, I did pay them all back. The silver lining of that was I was at a luncheon one time and a banker came over and started talking with me. And that he said, hey, if you ever need a line of credit or a loan, come on over to the bank. And I said, oh, I don't have my credit figured out yet, because my credit score, if you can imagine, wasn't real good at that point. And he looked at me and he said, you don't think in this small little community, we all know what you did. You can get a loan anytime.
Oh, that's so amazing.
See, what we don't realize is through everything, our character is forged. And character is something that you'll never get. You'll never be able to just say, this is my character. People, you can say, this is what I desire for my character to be and work to live that way. Yet it is literally your reputation. You can give yourself character. People determine your reputation. And people started talking about what had happened, teasing at first. Then they started talking about what I did about it. And it didn't happen overnight to pay it all back, yet eventually it happened. And that's where the reputation started going. So when people desired to have me as a realtor and I went into their home, if they'd heard the story, they knew whatever I was telling them was true, because that's the character I had developed. So whoever's listening to this, write down who you desire to be, what you desire to be known for, and then start living to be that person before breakfast every day.
I love
And
that, Dianna.
I think that's the best piece of advice I can give to anybody is just decide who it is you desire to be and make certain that person that you're being can do the things you desire to do and have the things you desire to have. And if you don't have people pouring into you, well, good luck. To be honest, interrogating reality, not going to happen. There is no self-made person out there. Somebody has helped you. And it's up to us to get the help that we need, whether it be through God, through other people. Yet I've never seen somebody that was a loner that did much at all.
That is so true. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. Just to kind of finish up here, one last thing. What are you working on right now that really excites you? Anything that you want to share with the listeners?
You know what? I'm always working on something. In fact, my husband says, another thing. I mean, come on. Yet you never know which one's going to take. So I love, you don't have your money coming from one place, right? You got to have different buckets of especially revenue coming in, mailbox money, whatever you want to call it. That's important, especially at my age, to have those things. And so I literally, I started my second book. not doing as much. Oh, my video just went off. Not doing as much as I desire for it to happen. And yet I'm working on it. Also, I'm doing a book club on my first book. We're starting that January 29th. And this book club's going to be a little bit different because I'm really going to go in to giving assignments and helping people become more. We've got Coaching Blitz, which is more of a communication or leadership blitz, because it's about how to coach your people. See, I believe that, leaders should not be dictators, micromanagers, any of that. We should all be asking questions of our people and learning how to give feedback. So we've had leaders at this course. The salespeople have been at the course. Literally, one gal wasn't even on the radar in the top 50 in her market center. And after coming to this course and going back, it was about 2.5, 3 months later, she called me and she said, I'm number 2 and I'm just so close to being number 1. And it's all because I'm using those skills that you gave to me. So I'm very excited about that. And of course, our inner circle. You're part of that. I mean, we have a call today for that. You and I, one-on-one, and it's going to be so much fun. I'm watching these people just skyrocket. And who knows what will be next, what I'll do next. I do know that I'll keep working until the day I die. In fact, I told Tony that please make certain that when I pass, if I pass in bed, that book is still under my pillow, because I want to read, I want to learn, and I love what Gandhi says. I'm going to learn like I live forever, and I'm going to live like I die tomorrow. So give it your all and quit thinking about this balanced life. There is no balance. There's a rhythm to life, but there is no balanced life. Get over yourself, and the more you give, the better you'll feel. So I just want to add value. In fact, every morning at 7 a.m., my phone alarm goes off and it says, what will you do today to add value to others? And at 7 p.m., my phone alarm goes off and it says, what did you do today to add value? So it helps. I trust I said something during this podcast that I can help other people. Just remember, you are great in many things, and don't let anybody take that away from you.
Thank you so much, Dianna. I know that all of my listeners are going to absolutely love every single word that you said. I know I did. So thank you so much for coming on and spending your time with me today. And I will see you on the Inner Circle call later. So
well, I love you, Mackenzie, so much. Thank you.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.